Welcome to La Purisima Mission State Historic Park, the most fully restored Spanish colonial mission in California. La Purisima Mission is a unique opportunity to discover not only the mission history, but the natural beauty of nearly 2,000 acres of parkland surrounding the historic buildings. With 26 miles of hiking, biking, and equestrian trails, there are many recreational opportunities to be explored. A wonderful complement to the La Purisima Mission experience are the animals on site that represent those introduced to California by the Spanish, such as churro sheep, horses, longhorn cattle, and even pigs. Experience stepping back in time by joining us for one of our many living history events offered throughout the year. Check our website for more information on how you and your family or organization can have your own special event at La Purisima Mission, such as a wedding, family gathering, or company picnic. Now, let's go on that tour starting at the church.
My name is Rob Glasgow, and I'm a volunteer here at La Purisima Mission State Historic Park. And this morning, we're going to show you around the main church. You'll notice I'm dressed in a costume today. This is the everyday robe that the Franciscan Padres would have worn at the mission. When they went to do church services, they put on a fancier outfit, but this is the day-to-day garb that they would wear. I have with me my belt rope and my rosary, and of course my ever-present walking stick. We're in the church today. This is the main church at La Purisima, built in 1813 when they first got here. It accommodates about 600 people, and the people at the mission during mission times came to church every 2 to 3 times every single day. I'm going to take you around and show you a few things of interest here inside the main church, and I hope you enjoy them. As you came into the church today, you noticed that this church has no pews in the middle like normally churches do. And that was the tradition back in mission days. When people came to church, they sat or they knelt or they stood. There was no seats in the middle of the floor. They did that because they could get more people in church that way rather than having seats. But speaking of the floor, let me point out the square handmade tiles that are on the floor here. Each one of these made by the Chumash Indians that were here at the mission. You'll notice they're all square, except for this little rectangular line of tiles that goes down the middle of the church. Now that wasn't put there to fill in a small gap, that was put there on purpose, because that divides the church in two. The tradition in mission days is when you came to church, the men sat on this side and the women sat on this side. That was a tradition back in mission days, and it's also a tradition in a lot of other churches around the world even today. Most of you know this mission as Mission La Purisima, and that's what everybody calls it today, and that's what people called it back in the past. But the full official name of the church, the one that's recognized, is Mission La Purisima Concepción de María Santísima y Madre del Dio y Nuestra Señora. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, so everybody shortens it to La Purisima. That means, though, the translation says it's the Church of the Immaculate Conception of the Most Holy Mary, Mother of God, and Our Lady. And that's Mary right up in front. Now, because this church is named for her, she gets to have the position right in the middle, a position of honor, which is also a tradition of all missions in California. Whoever they're named for, whichever saint they're named for, gets to have their statue up front. So if you go to Mission Santa Ynez, they will have a statue of St. Agnes or Santa Ynez up in front, or Santa Barbara has St. Barbara. That was one of the traditions that's been carried over forever. During the Catholic Mass, 200 years ago, as well as today, they ring bells to signify it's time for communion. And that is to call the people to come forward to take the bread and the wine. Now in mission days, they used a sanctus bell like this to call the people forward. Let me demonstrate how it sounds. after the bells are rung, the people come forward and take the bread and the wine. Now, they would use this bell in church every single day of the year, except for 3 days. And those 3 days that are right before Easter, they would not play any bells. They would have no music, they would have no singing. It was a very quiet, somber time. So during those 3 days, they would use the device in back of them. When it came time for communion, the acolyte would come forward and he would do this. That sound is the sound of the hammer driving the nails into Christ's hands when he was crucified on the cross. They did that to remind the people that Christ had died for him and sacrificed his life.
This is the altar at La Purisima Mission. It's a very special altar because the tabernacle on the altar was made by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And what they did is they made an exact copy of the tabernacle that's at Santa Barbara Mission that was made by the Chumash. And the Chumash added their own special touch to this altar from their culture. They inserted abalone, they inlaid the cross, and it has an engraved likeness of Jesus in the cross. Also above the tabernacle is Mary, a statue of Mary. This is unusual for a Catholic church today where the main figure would be Jesus. And Mary also is unique to this mission because she's the only California mission that has been named for Mary. And to the left, or Mary's right, I guess you'd say, is St. Joseph, and then to her left is St. Anthony. The painting around the altar is done by the Civilian Conservation Corps, again, done by artists with the Works Progress Administration as part of the CCC. The colors are very muted and pastels, which would not have been like that. During mission times, they would have been primary colors, very vibrant. In front of the altar area is the burial of Father Mariano Payeras. Father Payeras was the priest here until 1823 when he died, and his body was discovered when they did the reconstruction of this mission. And they knew where he was from correspondence during mission times. So when they discovered a body in the ruins of the church, they knew it was Father Payeras. The pulpit here at La Purisima is on the right-hand side of the altar. The priest would go up the steps and deliver the homily. And above it, you'll see something that looks like an umbrella. It's a canopy, and it's really a sounding board, so the priest's voice would resonate and would be heard by everyone in the church. And this church actually has very good acoustics, so I'm sure everyone could hear him, even in the back row. All around the walls of the church is this stencil design, and it was discovered by the Civilian Conservation Corps when they cleared the rubble for the church, and they were able to reproduce it exactly as it had been during mission times. And at that time, they would have made a stencil design out of cowhide. So you would have something nice and stiff and even to get your design perfect all the way around the room. This small statue of the boy Jesus is a favorite with visitors to the mission. This depicts Jesus as a boy, I think around 12 years old, if we all remember our Bible stories from Sunday school. And his parents take him to Jerusalem. And when they go home, they discover he's not with them. So in a panic, they rush back and they find him preaching to his elders. And so this is a small statue of Jesus. He probably came to California on a Manila galleon. He's dated to the 17th century. He has a lot of Asian influences. He has a top knot on his head. He's wearing Asian-inspired sandals, and his gown is also very Asian-inspired.
As a member of the Catholic Church, you were required to come and do your confession at least once a year. This is the confession booth. The priest would sit inside, pull the curtain closed, and you would come and you would kneel on the outside. While you were kneeling, you would tell the priest the things that you had done that were sins, the things that you were done that you were feeling bad about, and the priest would listen. He would say a few prayers. He would tell you to go away and not do those things again, and your sins would be forgiven. After the Chumash had attended church for a while, and they wanted to join the Catholic Church, they would come to the priest and say, "I would like to become a member of your church." He would bring them to the baptismal font and conduct the first sacrament of the church, which is holy baptism. We'd bring them to the baptismal font. He would take the holy water, either in his hand or in a shell, and he would pour it over their head, saying the ceremony of holy baptism. At that point, they were the beginning of members of the Catholic Church.
Hello everyone, my name is Parker Grand and I am a park interpretive specialist here at La Purisima Mission. And right now we are in the soldiers' quarters here, the Quartel at La Purisima Mission. Now this room in here is one of the most special rooms to me here at this mission. And that is because my ancestors were Spanish soldiers that lived here at La Purisima Mission 200 years ago. And my relatives were born here and were actually soldiers here, which is quite amazing. Now, if we take a look around here, this is where the soldiers, this is where they would live. Now, the soldiers, they were in charge of maintaining the mission property, which was about 300,000 acres. Besides doing that, though, they were in charge of protecting the mission and all the people that lived here. They were also in charge of taking care of the cattle and the sheep and the agricultural industry here at the mission. Now the soldiers, they were also in charge of the mail delivery between the missions here in California. Now that's quite a lot of work just for a handful of soldiers, because only 6 soldiers lived here at La Purisima Mission. Now 5 of the soldiers, they lived in these quarters right here, and they lived on beds just like this, with all of their belongings that would have to fit on the wall right behind me here. And if we take a look too, we will notice the Roman numeral on the wall, and that's there because most of the soldiers in California didn't know how to read and they didn't know how to write. Now also if we look right here on the bed, we have a shield, and that's one of the soldiers' most important tools as they needed to protect themselves from arrows. Now I'm dressed up as one of the Spanish soldiers back in mission times. This is just how my ancestors who lived here at La Purisima Mission as soldiers, this is how they would dress. Now they would have heavy wool jackets like I'm wearing here. Now you could imagine how heavy these wool jackets would have been on a sunny day. Also, the soldiers would have just worn what they had. If they didn't have a jacket, they would have just wore a shirt like I have underneath. Now the soldiers, they had lances just like I'm holding right here. Now they would use these lances when they rode on the back of a horse. Now next to my lance, I have a sword. Now these swords were also used by the soldiers to protect themselves. And lastly, I have a musket right here. Now these muskets were used by the soldiers here at the mission and also to protect themselves. Welcome to the corporal's apartment. Now this is the apartment where the head soldier lived at the mission. Now in order to be the head soldier at the mission, the only requirement is that you had to know how to read and you had to know how to write. But as the corporal, he had to tell the other soldiers what to do, but he also got to live in this nice bedroom and apartment here. As you can see, we have a nice dining room table where he would dine with his family. He also has his own kitchen in here, and he also has a lovely bedroom, which is right behind me here. Welcome to the Padres Residence Building. Now this entire building here was used by the Mission Padres. Now in this building, there's a private chapel that was used by the Padres. Their bedrooms are in this building. There's a living room, a dining room, several guest bedrooms, and their private offices. So now let's go ahead and let's take a look inside La Sala. Now this room is where the Padres would entertain their guests that traveled here to La Purisima Mission. Now they had some lovely furniture in here and some amazing religious artwork, as we can see on the wall behind me. And even the floor in here is a lot different from the rest of the mission. It's made out of wood. But this is where the Padres would entertain their guests and have a good time at the mission. Welcome to the Mission Library and office here at La Purisima Mission. Now this is where the Mission Padres would study, write letters, and keep records of everything that went on here at the mission. Now as you can see, there's this large bookshelf next to me that housed all the books where the Padres learned about new techniques and religion and technology that was going on in the world at this time. Now around this room, there are various objects that represent the trade that occurred throughout the world. For example, we have this beautiful English rug that's right here on the floor. And to my right here, we have a lovely tea set and table that is from Asia. And we also have this beautiful mirror that came from the United States at the time. Pretty amazing. And there's also a desk from South America in here. Welcome to the Padres room here at La Purisima Mission. Now, each mission here in California, like La Purisima Mission, housed 2 Mission Padres. Now, the Padres would live in rooms just like these, and they lived quite simply when they lived here at the mission. Now, they had a chest like this right behind me here that was used to house all of their personal belongings. You'll also notice a hat and a walking stick that the Padres used. Now, to this side of me here, we have one of the Padres' beds here. Now, the Padres, they slept on beds that were tied together with rawhide straps. Now, in front of me here is also the Padres' desk here at the mission. Now, the Padres, they would communicate using letters by writing with an ink quill. Now, residents, Mission Padres, and the Native Americans who lived here at La Purisima Mission could come to this mission store to purchase and trade for items. Now, as you can see, there are a variety of items that are from all over the world. Take a look at the shelf right next to me here, and you'll notice the porcelain china right here. You'll even notice a violin and a box of tea on top. Now, aren't all of these items found throughout the world? Yes, they are. And that's because trade was an important industry here at La Purisima Mission. The missions relied on trade to get the supplies that they needed.
Hi everyone, welcome to La Purisima Mission's weaving shop. This shop produced about 1,000 blankets annually on looms just like this one. There are about 5 looms within this shop. In fact, this shop employed about 100 different people in the whole process of making a blanket. Most of the time goes into making yarn. This yarn actually comes from the sheep that we raise here at the mission. The Navajo Churro sheep are just like the sheep that they raised here during mission times. And we shear them and produce wool out of their yarn. So I've taken their yarn and put it on this shuttle. The shuttle is a device that's going to go across the warp. That's the strings you see here. And this is how we weave a blanket. So let me show you. If I take my shuttle, I've got my foot resting on a pedal right now. It opens up the warp strings. And I'm just going to shoot it across here to the other side, taking my yarn all the way across the warp. You can see I leave a little bit of space, and I do that so that the sides here don't pull in. Now I've got my shuttle on the other side. I have 2 pedals. My foot's been resting on one, but now that my shuttle's over here, I'm going to put it on the other one. Watch what happens here on 3. I'm going to pull that up so you can see it better. 1, 2, 3. Check this out. Isn't that cool? That traps the yarn into the warp, and now I'm going to use this beater bar. I'm going to pull it down towards me, and look how nice that makes the blanket. So I hope you come by and check this out in person sometime at one of our Living History events. Hi again, we're on the other half of the weaving shop now. This is where we would produce the yarn from the raw fleece at from our sheep. And then it would be washed and brushed out. And then we would get this beautiful wool piece right here. We call this roving. And this is what we're going to use to turn this into yarn. So you've got to do some steps before you get a piece like this. Now I'm going to take this piece of roving. This is all wool that's been cleaned and brushed out. I'm going to put it on my spinning wheel here. And what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to rest it on my shoulder. And right here, this wheel is going to drive this rope to spin this spindle and create tension in this yarn. So let me show what that looks like. So I'm just doing this, and as I do this, look what's happening to this yarn. It's getting really tense. Do you see how it winds up on each other? So I'm going to continue doing that, and right here I have a piece of yarn that's ready to be connected right here, and I'm going to put this piece on top of this piece. And because wool has really wavy fibers, it helps the fibers stick together when I lay them on top of each other right here. Because what this roving is just a whole bunch of wool fibers sitting together from that same piece of fleece. So I'm just going to take that. I'm going to create some tension in the line here. So it should be nice and tense right here. Yep, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to let that tension run into this part of the string. When I do that, I just kind of pull it tight and watch that. So now I can just keep going. And as I'm doing this, you can see it's turning my roving into yarn. Cool, huh?
Hello, welcome to the Mission Blacksmith Shop. I'm the blacksmith, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is going on here. Right here in front of me, these are called bellows. And what I'm doing is pumping the bellows, and the bellows are pushing more air to the fire to make the fire hotter. Now where the fire is at, that is called the forge. We want the fire to be hotter because we're taking pieces of metal and we're putting them in there and heating them. We're going to use a hammer and an anvil to manipulate that metal into whatever we want it. The blacksmith works with metal. He takes that metal, heats it, and manipulates it into tools, into nails, into hinges, keys, and such. Metal was very hard to come by. Here in Alta California, there was no factories that made metal. There was no stores to go buy metal, so they had to trade for it. Ships would sail up and down the coast, and those ships had a collection of scrap metal that they used for ballast. And those traders would stop here at La Purisima and bring that scrap metal in and trade it. They probably traded it for leather and tallow and meat, because there was 20,000 head of cattle here at La Purisima. Because metal was so hard to get, nothing that was metal was thrown away when it broke. A piece of metal may have come off of a ship, and the blacksmith might have turned that piece of metal into a tool for gardening. If that tool broke and could not be repaired, it would have been turned into a smaller tool. Maybe a garden hoe was turned into a pair of shears, or a door hinge, or a window latch. And if the smaller piece of metal broke, then it would have been turned into a nail. Nothing was thrown away. It was used until it could not be used anymore. The blacksmith was a very important tradesperson to have at the mission. And the Padres knew this. But they could not afford to pay the blacksmith well enough to keep one to stay here to work. So instead, they traded room and board. We are in the blacksmith's shop, but right next door is the blacksmith's apartment and the kitchen where the blacksmith and his family would have lived. And his apartment was one of the bigger apartments from any of the tradespeople that lived here, because it was that important to have a blacksmith working at the mission. The mission blacksmith learned his skill by being taught from a master blacksmith from Mexico. The Padres hired a master blacksmith to come up from Mexico to teach the mission blacksmith how to do his job. As I mentioned before, the Padres didn't have enough money to pay the blacksmith, so how would they pay for the teacher to come up and teach the blacksmith? They paid him with a land grant. He came up from Mexico and taught several mission blacksmiths how to do their job, and then he received his own ranch from the Padres.
Welcome to the Padres Fountain area here at La Purisima Mission. This beautiful historic fountain was the center of a water source for the mission people. Today you'll find visitors enjoying the relaxing setting, having a picnic, taking pictures of the birds, diving into the fountain, and just enjoying the beautiful surroundings of the park. This beautiful setting is also a perfect place to hold your special event with your family, organization, or business. So check us out online, on our website, or on Facebook. Thank you. Welcome to our Visitor Center. This is a great place to start your journey back into time. We have a beautiful mural that depicts Father LeSwain blessing the ground that would eventually become La Purisima Mission. We also have a wonderful exhibit on the Chumash people that includes some of their beautiful handcrafted items, including an abalone seashell that's been turned into a fishhook, as well as arrowheads and a beautiful hand-woven basket. You can also reach out and touch our 200-year-old mission bell that's on display. We also have 200-year-old vestments that the Padres here at La Purisima Mission would wear during special ceremonies. And lastly, we have an exhibit on the men who restored La Purisima Mission back in the 1930s, the Civilian Conservation Corps. So you can see so many things here. We also have friendly docents and staff here to answer your questions. We offer self-guided tour maps so you can find your way around, and you can meet here for our 1 o'clock guided tour as well. So we hope you stop by La Purisima Mission Visitor Center and come and see us.